So I stayed and I got my master's in education, specializing in curriculum instruction. And then I went to go teach in Medina at Taiba University.
Alhamdulillah.
Uh, After being there for 2 years, I was able to save up money because tax-free salary.
Right.
They paid for my housing. They paid for my flight, my kids' school.
Right.
All I had to pay for was food.
Food, that's it. Food and clothes,
Yes,
that's it. Yeah.
that's it. And
Yeah.
you're wearing a thobe,
Hmm.
and it's everybody's wearing a thobe, so you don't have to think about fashion. You just wear the same thing every day because that's the fashion.
Right.
So, and you go to the tailor, get some thobes made really cheaply. Uh, After 2 years, I had enough money. We found some land in New Mexico, 51 acres. So we purchased it. Um, we were never even in New Mexico. So I didn't see the property before.
Right.
My wife and I just decided that we'll make it work. And if it's really that bad that we don't like it, we'll sell it.
Right. Exactly.
So we got the land and we were like, alhamdulillah, we're just going to make this work. Uh, but we didn't come in 2011. It was 2 years after we purchased the land. But in the meantime, since 2003, we had studied various aspects of off-grid living, homesteading, natural building, animal husbandry, just to get all that background knowledge. We did it in the US, we did it in the UK. I worked on a project in Medina. And actually, Jeff Lawton was my mentor for the project. If, for those who don't know about him, he's the foremost authority at present for permaculture.
Mm.
Uh, so it was just taking all of this knowledge uh, and trying to put it together. So everywhere I would go, I would just take that and say, okay, I'm going to take that piece and use it here. So there's a place in Wales in the UK called the Yurt Farm. Uh, took techniques that they have. I said, okay, I'm going to incorporate that in America. Went to study natural building in Great Yarmouth in the UK and England to learn how to build cob houses. Prior to that, I did regular construction with concrete. So I said, okay,
Right.
now I have some more skills with natural building. In 2013, we came here. We started doing some fence work, getting to know the people in the area. Then we would just come back in the summer, do a little work, go back to Saudi, do a little work, go back to Saudi. 2015, after I saw that the situation in Saudi was really changing, uh, decided, you know what, it's time to leave. So originally it was a 10-year plan to be in Saudi, but we only stayed for 6.
Okay.
Came here, started working on the property, contacted another brother to see if he would be interested in land. And alhamdulillah, he decided to buy 100 acres next to me. Uh, but his wife had a baby prematurely. So he decided he didn't want to be where we are because it was too remote.
Right.
So I talked to him. I said, why don't you split your land up and we can sell it to the Muslims? So he decided to do that. So we started splitting that piece up and got other families to join us. And then I said, well, there's a little town that's 5 miles away. We need Muslims there also. This with this gentrification that they're doing, they're going into one place and then they're closing in on an area. So I said, hey, we might as well do the same thing. In
Hmm.
this area, the population is very low.
Hmm.
The town only has 234 people in it. So we can actually have half of the population or outnumber them in no time. Um, but it's a hard struggle. You know, we were out here by ourselves. Uh, you know, the closest masjid was 2 hours and 15 minutes away. So we have our own masjid on our property.
Allahu Akbar.
So, and if anybody's been to my YouTube channel, you might have seen Khalid Green giving the khutbah from the masjid there. We took a shipping container and
Hmm.
converted it into a masjid. So it's solar powered with carpets, it's painted, it's got everything that we need, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Um, and yeah, we just keep trying to grow, inviting people, like minded people
Right.
to join us. on this project, but it doesn't happen overnight. So for a lot of people, they get discouraged. They think, let's just get some land and come together and we'll have a Muslim community. And it takes time,
Right.
Muslim or not. I mean, Dancing Rabbit is a sustainable village. And when I looked at their timeline of when they purchased their land and they got people to actually be living there and have a community, my community is actually faster than them, but it still takes time.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things I think that we in that instant lifestyle, everything happens immediately, and sometimes what keeps us from progressing is the fact that we're thinking it's not fast enough when actually all we have to do is be steady, be consistent, and work together, cooperative, have a plan. That's part of it too,
Yes.
having a plan. So I guess the question would be, so you know what we're trying to do, and of course you can interject with whatever you think will benefit us, because that's exactly why I'm very happy that you joined the group to do exactly what you're doing. You're here to offer information, education, experience, and just roll it up into one big sort of thing to understand every community is not going to be the same, in terms of how they move forward. However, what I believe is that if we take your experience and what we can gather from other, we're pulling in others who have experience as well, and try to put something together that it's going to work for us. I think you saw what we're trying to do. We're trying to we're really trying to build something and get to work soon, like a year, within a year to 18 months. I would hope, inshallah, we're building our first house, right? Or putting our first septic system in, or what, digging our first well, that sort of thing. Uh, if it goes faster, then I'm happy. But I think expectations are very important. Because, and one of the reasons why we are these families, and alhamdulillah, we up to 9 families now, so 16 more to go. We're saying $10,000. We want to know that people have a commitment to this, because $1,000 or $2,000 people can walk away from and they'll take it as a loss. But when you put in a number of 10,000, not only does that with 25 families give us $250,000, but it's not much of a leap to get to 300,000 from that when you got 25 families. And once you acquire the land, making sure that all of those, and one of the things that I think in everyone that I talk to, one of the things we want to be careful about is making sure that we can do on that land what we expect to be able to do on that land, right? That it has the qualities, the characteristics that we're looking for long term. This is not a short term project. As you're saying, how long have you been down there? That was the question I had. How long, when did you start this in 2013, you said?
Well, 2011 is when I purchased the land. 2013 is the first time I visited and started doing anything. 2015 is when I moved here permanently with no house,
Right.
living in a tent.
Living in a tent. I was telling a couple of people because I watched your video and you said, yeah, we moved, we were in tents with the
Yeah,
family, subhanallah. And
so
so
yeah,
it
we
takes
were real
sacrifice.
villagers.
It takes being determined, right? And it takes some sacrifice. That was certainly a sacrifice for you and your family to do that,
Yes.
but you had a goal, you had a plan, and it looks like that plan is coming together, because I think the last thing I heard about that, you said you're actually now building your forever house, right?
Yes, that is the plan, the forever house. So housing is a very important thing. Uh, a lot of times people want their forever house in the beginning,
Right.
and that's a lot more money that you got to put up front. Um, and I always recommend to people, to start small. Um, so we went from tents to travel trailers to three-bedroom mobile home to now we're working on our forever house. Um, the plans changed over time from 100% cob to a shipping container house. And just so everybody knows, actually, I'm in a shipping container right now. My office is a shipping container. I took a 40-foot container, high cube, so it's 9.5 feet.
Not right.
I had it spray foam insulated. Over on this side, you can't see, but there's a sliding glass door right here where the container actually opens, so I can just let in all kinds of light. In the back, I have a 30,000 BTU heater, which is actually the size you need for like 100 square feet, and this is only 300. I mean, 1,000 square feet. This is 320 square feet. And I did that because in the future, I was thinking about
Hmm.
connecting another container to this, another two, and then just cutting, holes through.
Right.
So why go with a small heater now when I'm going to need a big heater later?
Right.
So I'm always trying to think about, the future. If I do this, uh, am I going to need to change it? Because I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, and I want to help you guys not make those mistakes.
Yes. Yes.
Um, but yeah, with housing, you have to figure out, what do you want to do and how much sacrifice uh, you're willing to deal with and for how long.
Right.
So,
And that's one of the things that I'm happy again, as you said, and that is what you looking to be able to give us the benefit of errors so that we don't make those and so that we can kind of maneuver around those and look in different and also looking long term as you said you really want to as you're building out if you can afford to you want to be able to think larger than where you are right now and a three what did you say how much 300 of 300 foot square foot container there, right? Yeah, and you envision stretching it out, and that's one of the things we want to be able to do on the properties that on the property that we purchase. We want to have the ability to do container homes if someone wants to do that, Adobe home, traditional construction, or barn dominium type steel building kind of construction, that sort of thing. So we're looking at hopefully finding somewhere that allows us to have some flexibility in regards to that. And so there are a number of boxes we're trying to check. And it would be appreciated too if there's some things that you say, okay, look out for this, look out for that kind of stuff. You don't have to tell it, you might think of it after this stream, but send us a little list, put it in our room, and these are the things you want to look out because we're actually building that list now. I've spoken to a couple of agents, real estate agents, who are actually looking for us to, and I gave them the main points, right? So they're looking, one of the main points is we want to buy the land. We want somewhere between 60 to 100 acres. We want that sweet spot. That sweet spot is around 70 to 80 acres, right? And we need to be able to have the allowances with no restrictions, as few restrictions as possible, but at minimum, we need to be able to build 25 or greater number of home sites on that property, and we need to have maybe some flexibility in what type. Can we put a prefab or a modular home, a trailer home, or can we get really creative and do, like you were saying, the containers, shipping container structures, or barn dominium steel building converted. We want to make sure that we can offer the people who are involved a multitude of different options in terms of how they can pull up. Can we pull up a trailer home, a mobile home, for instance? And somebody might just want to say, look, for the first five, I just want to just throw a mobile home on there or a trailer home, and just live that way, until I can afford to do better than that, or sell my house back in wherever, and then kind of move into it. So give everyone, because we're all at different points, different levels, different ability in terms of financial access to the cash and that sort of thing. How long does it take? It might take one person 3 to 5 years. It might take another person 5 to 10 years before they're ready. We have people who, like you, they're overseas right now. We have at least one brother, I think two, who are saying, "Hey, I'm in, but I'm going to be here for the next 5 to 10 years. I don't know, So they're planning, saying, I'd like to be part of this community effort, So they are, not looking to build out right away. But one of the things we're offering, and like you, I have a background in construction. My background is about 25 years. I started out plastering hanging drywall finishing, little framing, carpentry, and all of that sort of thing. But then I moved on to my time in Saudi Arabia was spent. I was an executive manager and a projects manager for construction projects. I also done some of that back here as well. I ran my own company for doing architectural finishings, interior. Um, so we're looking at offering as part of that any project management, making sure that whatever plans that are drawn up, even looking at programs for drawing plans. I looked at a couple of guys who use stuff like there was chief engineer. There's one called um, Sketch It or something like that. This
Mhm.
guy, he was really impressed with that. I looked at it myself, and it's something where you could probably and the guy went down and got the plans approved by the county. When they stamp it and they say, hey, this is it. That's what you want, and you can start building. And having some experience, we're trying to bring people to the table who have experience with what you have experience with, but also framing carpenters, plumbers, electricians, uh, people who have those sorts of experience, roofers, whatever the case might be, and most of the guys, like myself and others, they've had a multitude. If they're a framing carpenter, chances are they've done some finished carpentry. Chances are they may have even put on a roof or two, right? That sort of thing. So when you're working in the construction industry over years, maybe like myself, 25 years, I've done a lot of things. I've um, dug footing. I started digging footing. That was one of the first things I did, and framing out the for the to pour the concrete. Getting it ready. Whether it was brick footings or concrete footings. So
My job.
yeah. But I'm going to also say let me look and see if we have any questions in any of the rooms there. Certainly, but if anyone on has any questions, Mubarak, it's good to see you joined us. Let's see who we got there. Marwa, and now Marwa and Jawad, they were on the call with us. I don't know how many years ago that was when we talked to you. Seems like it was probably 4 years ago, approximately 4 to 5 years ago, man. So uh, this my son and my daughter, uh, Brother Mubarak, you are muted. Also, Jawad, Zainab, if you have anything, any questions, please feel free to chime in. In the mean, that gives me a moment to take a look over here and see if there's anyone else that has anything to say. I'm hoping I don't have too much open here. I should close some things up.
It's like, well, I don't really have any questions at the moment.
Okay, all right. Um, let's take advantage of having the brother here. So if anybody's got anything, I have. Oh, I need to mute that. I'm hearing myself. So, another question you were saying earlier, Sheryf, that sometimes, it's about expectations. People get involved and they say, well, they kind of lose the spirit after a while. Um, what is it in retrospect? hindsight that you would look at and say, you know what, there are some things we could do to um, to decrease the likelihood that people are going to lose interest. I think one of the things I know will keep interest is that they can see continual progress, right? That they can see things happen, right? So one of the things that, part of the plan that I see us doing is, one, we're buying land, inshallah, that has timber available on that land, right? Inshallah, buying land, of course, one of the other boxes that has to be ticked is that it has surface water, creek or stream, right? We need access to that. Um, well, what are we going to have the land? I got some information. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to the conversation I had with Wayne Swanson. Now he's the guy that helped put that thing together for those people in Georgia, the 19 families that bought the 500 acres, right? And I reached out to him. I said, let me find this guy, because and I did, and we hooked up on LinkedIn. And then the next morning, we had a conversation, about 15, 20 minutes conversation. About 14 minutes of it we have in the room there, because we got into it a little bit. And I said, no, let me make sure I document this for the group. I want them to hear, because I could see there was some stuff coming out here. I'm like, dude, this is good information. So I wanted to share it. But one of the things that happens, like he was saying, is that some people fail to plan. People have lost money, and because they failed to look at certain things. So he named a number of things, and some of those things I definitely think we can apply. If not all of them are great to apply, but not all of them are necessarily possible to find in the land that you got that priority of list of things that have to be checked. And if it's a lower priority item, for instance, one of the things he mentioned, it's good to have land that it has two road frontages, right?
Okay.
And we run into that. We run into land I'm looking at, but that has two road frontages, one on one side, one in the, one north, one south, one east, one west, or what have you. And so that for a number of reasons, in terms of long-term development, and also looking at the 10-year plan for the area. So there were some things, if you listen, he suggested, and I'm inshallah we're going to follow up on that. We're also going to have him on one of our calls as well, because there was a lot more I think we could have gleaned from, gotten from him in terms of information. So I wanted the group to hear it. I wanted to be able to have it on this sort of thing so we could share it out and let everyone hear some of this stuff. One of the things he said was that when we find a piece of property, say the real estate agent comes to us with a piece of property, when we go visit it, we contact a local, and there's a term for them, maybe you'll come up with it, it escapes me at the moment, but someone who goes out there and tests the land. They know the area. They know how deep people are digging to get wells. So your neighbors or people in the area, did they have to go 100 feet, 150 feet, 300 feet to get water? The quality of the soil, what's normally used, the history of the area. Usually when you got a large timbered area where it's just a lot of trees, that's not a whole lot of concern unless somebody used it for, like, for Aberdeen Proving Grounds before that. The army used it or something. But there's certain things they look out. Also, perk testing. That's part of it. Perk testing a few sites to see what's it look like, what's the soil doing. Because if you can't put in septic and things, you're not going to be able to build on it. So there's some things that we need to check off before. So he said, before you even put a contract on it, when you go down to see the land and walk the entire property, right, and do some things. So those, I agree with him on that. I was thinking you do that afterwards, after you put the contract on it and you lock it in with a condition, or what's called, on the, sale, conditional on completion of a perk test or whatever, right? But he's saying, do that up front, get it done, right? So there may be other opinions on that, but I'm definitely willing to learn, how we move forward, because what we don't want to do is, as you were saying, we don't want to make rookie mistakes, you know. So we want to call on people who have experience, who've done this, and who can give us some valuable insight to the process and also an order to that process, because with the timber, I think you might have seen in the room I put in this machine. It's about $3,000, where you can turn trees into 2x4s. You can turn them into support beams and different things, right? So you're turning that timber into lumber. So now it's money, when it comes down to building. Of course, also a brick machine for making brick. So you're gonna have to buy your cement, but you got a lot of. If depends on the soil that you have, you may have soil right there on the property that you can utilize in that brick making process, and you don't have to buy, say, sand and what have you, and bring, it's an expense like that. But trying to just get an idea like that, those are some of the things that we're trying to look at, uh, in terms of moving forward. But one of the big things is we need to be able to build. If you buy the land, we get 80 acres at a good price, but yet we can't build the number of structures we want, the home sites that we want. It doesn't do us all good. So we got to look at a lot of stuff, and it's going to cost. There's some exploratory cost involved there, and everyone has to be understanding that it's not necessarily a lot, because we're not going to go forward with those exploratory costs until certain things, hey, this looks like it's this land we can build. It's either free of restrictions, or it will allow the things that we want to do, including the agriculture, including the animals that we want to put on the far end of the property, away from the houses, of course. But definitely we want to be able to have. We're not going to run a ranch off of it. It's not bad if we can legally, but we do want to have some land that we can raise some animals, bring in 30, 40, 50 sheep, 20, 30 goats, chickens running free range, hen house. Uh, I don't know, throw a pond in there and start raising some catfish. I like catfish, you know, that sort of thing.
One of the things is with regards to land is I like to tell people this, uh, you almost never find that ideal piece of land, you know? So you got to be prepared to say, okay, this is good, and this is how we can change the land. So, for example, where I'm at, we have hardly any trees
Yes,
because this
right,
is this is ranch land, and
right.
the ranchers don't want trees because that takes away from the grass, and they can't feed their cows. So we want trees. We decided we're just planting trees. Every chance we get, we're planting trees. That being said, you have to know the type of trees that grow best in your area.
Right.
So you want to work with native species with regards to trees, with livestock, uh, even fish, you know, because everything is suited for a particular area.
Hmm.
And being that you're on the East Coast, uh, 1 acre for you is a way different than 1 acre for me. Just to give you an example, where I am, we need 50 acres to support one cow.
Wow.
Where on the East Coast, anywhere in the mid Atlantic, that's 1 acre per cow. So actually, well, 1 acre per agricultural unit. An agricultural unit is 1,000 pounds of animal. So
Okay.
1,000 pound cow, or that would equate to about 5 or 6 sheep or 5 or 6 goats.
Hmm.
Um, so you have to look at those things. The type of land that you have, is it hilly? Is it grass? Uh, if there's a lot of moisture, this isn't ideal for, for goats because they are actually more of an arid, climate animal.
Mm-hmm.
This can have an effect on their hooves, and then you're going to have vet bills, to deal with. Um, just so many things that you have to take into consideration. But the most important thing is getting the land, because without land, you can't do anything else. So land is the first step, and it might be, like you said, a year, 18 months, maybe even longer before people were there.
Right.
But getting the people to come together to to get the land is paramount.
And exactly, and that's the phase we're in right now. So the first phase is gathering the committed families with the funds. Second, and also the second part of the first phase is finding the land and purchasing that land. Then we move into phase two, which is, okay, now we start. And one of the things I'm looking at, I said, there's some things we can do starting out. We don't need people moving on the property for, and that is get a shipping container like you have, right? And use it to for that milling machine. We don't need the brick making machine out the gate, but I definitely would like to be able to start clearing, identifying home sites, right? Identifying them and clearing those areas, and then taking that lumber and inventorying it. Okay, my 15-foot trees over here, my 20s over there, etc. And start just preparing the lumber, the timber to be created and turned into lumber, and working on that gradually, creating that inventory of lumber so that when we're ready to build that first house, for instance, if you looked at the video where the guy down in Atlanta is, they're framed out a house, right? They've framed out two houses. Um, we have an inventory that we can reduce the cost. We've extract that from the land, and we have an inventory that we can reduce the cost of actually building. So getting one of those cement mixers, nice size one, I've priced those as well. It's not a lot. The thing is, we mix and we pour our own pads, right? We put up our own frame, pour the pad, and we have inventory what we need. So now we know what that list is, and so when we start putting that out there, transparency, okay, this is what we have. So whoever is ready to go first phase, this is what we can do. If you want a 1,200 square foot or 800 square foot or an 1,800 square foot, kind of just a basic structure, right? We can do that and this is what we need per phase. First phase, we want that building closed up. So if you saw the video of the guys, six guys, 8 hours framed out a building, including putting the tin roof on, the metal roof, right? I don't expect us to be able to do that. It might take us 3 or 4 days or even a week to do that. But the thing is, the thing I've seen it done quick. It can be done pretty quick, right? Being realistic, I've watched guys in 4 days frame out a 2,300, 2,800 square foot house. Sure, you've seen it as well. But the thing is that expectations, realistic expectations of what we can do, and we start to measure those by putting in competencies and capabilities, including inventory and who is going to frame that house out. Did we get the interest of one or two good framing carpenters who want to be part of the project and who can, or do we have to contract that out? What's the cost? Either way, right? There's a cost either way. Even if we got them, they're part of the project, they're not going to do it for free, you know?
I got you something though. I got you
Uh
something.
oh.
So if you want free, okay, there's an organization. It's called Pushers. Okay, these are people who work on farms, ranches, developing communities for free. You're not allowed to pay them. Okay, it's a sharing of knowledge. So whatever knowledge you have, it might be in gardening, you're sharing it with them. They will come and do the work for you. I was contacted by graduating architectural students that wanted to come to my place to do work for free. Um, So basically, there's a website. You'd go onto that. You would register your project. Um, oh, you have to. There is a cost. You have to. It's nice to feed the people. So you got to make sure they eat.
Right,
Uh,
right.
but with regards to housing, you don't have to provide anything. Low level, they said, please at least provide a area where they can camp, a
Hmm.
tent.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, they'll come and do the work for you. So you'll have bricklayers, carpenters, architects, numerous people, and you can actually set the criteria. Who do you want to come? So for my project, I said we're Muslim. Okay, we want males or married couples.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
Friday is there's no work, prayer times there's no work, just we laid it all out.
Right,
And
right, right.
we still have people, non-Muslims, contacting us wanting to come.
Right, right. Fantastic. That's it. You see, guys, this is amazing information. That information alone could reduce the cost of building a structure by several $1,000s, you know? Yeah, so that's excellent. Fantastic. But that's the approach I want to take and organized, really gather the resources, have inventory, have a plan, have the drawings already ready. So we'll know what we need. And so if the person says, I need 1,200 square feet, I need 2 bedrooms, a single bath, and a spot hooked up for the potbelly stove or the heater, the wood burning heater, right, or something, whatever, right? But we have that inventory. We get more information, like what you're sharing, and we gather it, and we're able to cost a project for a single home, and we're able to plan it out, phase wise, getting it to the first phase. This is what it's going to cost. Person might say, okay, I got that. Right? It's only going to cost me X number of dollars. We got so much lumber. We may have even accessed some of what's the name of that group again?
Push it. So if you go online, it's called the push. I'll send it to you, inshallah.
Okay, thank you. So as we start to, it's potentially we can start moving. Once we've acquired the land and a few things, and so for instance, I'm looking at just to give you an idea how I'm thinking, and you can chime in, please. I'm saying, okay, we either want to own, inshallah, own an excavator and a dozer, or we need to have a very nice pickup truck with all the goodies, it can pull, and a trailer so that if we need to go and rent one, we can go pick it up, load it on, bring it to the property, do what we need to do, and take it back, right? Um, and we cost that. How much does it cost per day, per week, etc., right? Month of we need that dozer because we're going to clear all of these home sites. We've already identified it. We're not going to be in there figuring it out. We're going to already have identified which trees come down, where they go, all of that. And then I'd like to own it because there are other things you want to do. So how much does it cost? I've actually priced some of them, right? And see what it costs. We got a brother who's a heavy equipment operator. He's like, man, I really love. At the very minimum, we can utilize, and we might even get it if they get it from the group, the Bush. And say, look, we have the heavy. You got a heavy equipment operator? Send him one over, and then we clear those. So there are things there, and if we own those things, it's better because when we get ready to clear the land for, we're going to put the masjid, whether we throw up a container building or whether we just throw a little 800 or 1,000 square foot steel building or build one. What's it cost to build, just to build a building and throw the concrete down per family, 25 families? Think about it. They put $1,000 in a piece, might be 500. You got 1,000. That's $25,000. This is our masjid, and next to it, we have a recreational area with a couple of picnic. Those are cheap to build. We got the wood on the land, pretty much. We can in the cement. So build. Okay, this is our masjid and recreational area. And then when we go down to clear the place out for the animals, we're going to get a lot of lumber, a lot of timber out of that, and we create lumber. We create lumber out of it, and I think I put a video in showing this guy taking a single tree, and I think he got 16 by 4s out of it. Then he took, you can get the support beams if you need support beams, corner support beams, 8 by 8s, 10 by 10s, 12 by 12s, depending on the tree, you can get that. What you need, 16 feet, 12 feet, whatever, you got it, And so begin to turn that 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 timber into lumber, into usable lumber. And you know how much, man. You somebody asked me yesterday, say, man, I was talking to a good friend of mine today, and I hadn't seen him in 40 years. We were in the Marine Corps together, right? 45 years, haven't seen him, and finally got in touch with him through Facebook. Right? And so we were talking, and at one point he was like, man, have you been to the grocery store lately? Yes, right? Prices are expensive, and we need to avoid that. Raise our own, grow our own, build our own, right? So that's how I'm thinking. I think people will appreciate it when we start, and as this is where this conversation got on this track, people will remain interested if they see there's progress going on and they see finished projects. Here's the house that was built. Here is this was done. Here we cleared the road. And then they say, man, I'm down. And they can come. Not unlike some of these things people are investing in today, they can't touch it and feel it. Here it is, right? Here it is. It's right here. It's yours. Come on. It can add value to your existence, and you can add value to it, and we share in that added value.
Well, one of the things you can do, one of the things that I did is it was going to be difficult for me to like study everything. And that was just ridiculous. So each one of my kids
Mm.
had to specialize in an animal.
Allahu Akbar.
And then they have to share the information within the family. So
Mm.
my one daughter, she's a specialist in sheep. The other one is goats, it's chickens, cows. And actually, we had one of our goats was acting weird, and we didn't know what was going on. The daughter that specialized in sheep recognized the disease from sheep, saw that it was bottle jaw, and said, okay, well, this is how we're going to treat it. Because when I went to go sell the other goats, and I told the guy I was selling, I said, this one has got bottle jaw, and my daughter's treating it. He's like, no, it's going to die. And I'm like, okay, well, I just told you, so you don't have to take that one. After my daughter did her stuff, thing was jumping around, happy, no problem whatsoever. But
Hey,
don't
tell
put
that
all
farmer,
the
look, any bottle joy sheep you got, goats, send them our way. We'll heal them at a cost, or you can just send them our way and call it a deal.
and it was a natural remedy which she used diatomaceous earth, garlic cloves, and something else. I forget what it was. But she took care of that animal like in no
Wow.
time. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. You can actually start doing that now. The
Right,
families that
right,
are
right.
interested,
Yes.
okay, this family,
Good idea.
you're going to start learning about cows, everything that you need to know about cows. Uh, because people are going to be like, well, what's there to learn? Well, how long does a cow carry a calf? Okay.
Nine
People are going to be
months.
like, well,
No, I don't know.
well, it's almost exactly as humans, almost the same exact time frame.
Right,
So,
right.
because we're expecting, inshallah, another calf in May.
Inshallah
Um,
khair.
and what we do, one of the things about that too is people think, oh, well, you got to have a bull. No, you don't. Borrow one from the neighbor.
Hmm.
You know, why are you going to get certain livestock that are only going to be working for you for actually like 5 minutes, and the rest of the year they're just eating up food?
Right, right, right,
So
right.
my neighbor wanted, we had a beautiful calf because we have Jersey calves, so they're dairy breed, and she was light brown, had a little white spot right here, beautiful. And they were like, we want to buy it from you. I was like, you got to talk to my daughters. So the daughters finally agreed, but on the condition
Yes.
that we get to use your bulls for the next 5 years
Yes, that's right.
for this calf.
Right. Right.
And we got two different bloodlines.
Right.
So we can not the same bulls coming. Uh they were happy, we're
Excellent.
happy,
Excellent. Yes.
you know.
That's right.
Uh
That's right.
just but start delegating things out. Somebody, you know, you're talking about soil testing. Soil testing is very simple. You can get a soil sample, you send it to the extension agent that's in your area,
Right.
and they'll let you know a breakdown on everything. Uh, or you could go to a permaculture specialist, which is me,
Which
and
is
I
you,
go
right?
out and I went out and I charged people a couple $1,000
Right.
to do a site analysis on they had 80 acres,
Right.
and I charged $2,500 to go out there and do all this stuff. Now I'm telling you, you can do the same thing. You're going to go out, you'll dig soil from one area. You don't do it all in one spot. You got to
Right.
spread it out because your land's going to have different qualities.
Right.
And then you can take this, you can test it. You can go and buy your own kit and test it. You can send it off to a lab. If you send it off to a lab, it costs about $60, but they give you a breakdown of every single thing that's in there. Uh, and then you just go from there. So you can have somebody working on that, somebody studying sheep. What are the best type of sheep in your area? Do you want to have wool sheep or do you want to have hair sheep? If you say, okay, people say, oh, I want to have wool sheep because I'm going to shear the sheep. Who's going to shear the sheep? Do you
Right.
have somebody who can
Right.
shear?
Right. Right.
Because I tried it. Uh, and, I figured, hey, I cut my hair. I cut,
Right.
nah. When I finished that, I didn't even finish him. He had patches all out of him. I had to call the shearer. He looked at him and he said, do you want me to do him too? I said, please, please do him too. Um, but the guy was real cheap. Like
Right.
people think that it costs a lot of money. And basically he was charging me $10 per animal. And
Okay.
I keep all the wool. But you have to
Sweet.
find somebody that's established and maybe they're training somebody.
Mhm.
So you get a cheaper price. But what are you going to do with the wool? If you're not going to process it, then you might as well have hair sheep. Then you don't
Right.
have to worry about that.
Right. Right. Okay. I just learned that there was a difference just recently in the last few days. I saw an
Mm.
article, and the girl she was raising hair sheep, and she said, "Hey, I decided to go this route. My father went with the wool sheep, and I went with the hair sheep. You know, but one of the things you mentioned something interesting there in terms of our project. We have framing carpenters. We can breed framing carpenters. We can train on them. They have, as we're framing out these projects, they have an intern, or what do you call it, apprentice, right? And apprentice, because that's how I grew. That's how I learned how to plaster. My father was the plaster. He's the, I was the mixer. I mixed it, soaked the lime. I did all of that work while he was up on the scaffold or whatever. I'm mixing, I'm putting in the gauging and I'm mixing it or whatever. I got a little put a little what they used to call dope, which is retard. If it was stiffening too fast or whatever, it was too hot, and then get it up to him. And I didn't know what I was learning. But later, years later, when I had to do a big job that was plastering, even though they were still doing drywall, it was a restoration. Um, I found out that a lot of plasterers couldn't mix. So I ended up being the mixer. Now I said those guys probably could mix. They didn't want to mix because mixing is not. It's a lot of work. Putting it up is plastering is a lot of work, but mixing is convoluted. You gotta get the lime. You gotta make the put it up on the mixing board, and you put the well in there, and you get the water, and you put the gauge in, and then you gotta get busy. And but as far as plumbers, electrical, what have you, having guys, I did electrical, I've done plumbing, I've done all of those things. I'm not a plumber, nor am I an electrician, but I've wired houses. I've put in the plumbing lines. I've done all of that. So learning how to do those sorts of things can lessen the price of the overall build when you got someone who's not, long as they follow code, they don't have to be a professional. You get it in there, then you got the guy who's a licensed plumber to come in and tie everything and approve it and say, "Hey, that's it." Then you call in your inspectors if that's necessary. And some, I've looked at some situations where the only thing they needed to get inspected was the septic. The septic had to be approved by, they sent out the county guy. He inspected it, tested it. It was all good. They could close it up. As far as the house, they did not, that particular municipal area, that county didn't have. They had a lot of what they call. It was very lax in that they didn't care. Long.
Yeah, two things. Uh, One, back to the animals real quick, then we're going to go into septic.
Okay.
Okay. So, with regards to animals, a lot of people don't know. Okay, say they're going to do chickens. Okay. Here's my mistake that I did. I wanted organic chickens.
Okay.
Okay. I paid $20 per chicken because that's the amount of money that the producer spent from the time it was a chick until it was ready to lay its first egg.
Right.
It's going to be $20 per chicken. And I got like 10 chickens, I believe. So I spent $200. And, I thought, hey, that's a good deal. Now what I do is I go to Yoder Farms. There's a guy, believe it or not, uh, out this way, originally from Pennsylvania, Lancaster County. Um, I was talking to him, and then I told my mom about who he was, and there's a connection between my mom, him, and his sister, like from school or something.
Right. Right.
Crazy. But I didn't get this discount because of that. So he has 10,000 chickens. He produces for Organic Valley, regular organic producer. And every year he has to call his chickens. So he sells them to try to make some money. So if you buy 99 or less, they're a dollar each. If you buy 100 or more, they're 50 cents each. So get 100.
Right.
50
Right.
cents per chicken that
Right.
is linked. From the time I pick them up and I get them home, I got a bunch of eggs in the back of my trailer,
Subhanallah.
and I didn't have to put anything into them. So on day one, I can make money because I went and picked up 100 eggs, and I got back. I had about the next day about 80 because my dogs learned that if they scare, well, when they were in the trailer the first night, if they scare the chickens, they'll push the eggs forward. The dogs throw a paw on them and they lick up the eggs. So I had to get them moved.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
yeah, you can save money by finding an established organic producer and find out when he's going to change his chickens out, and
Okay.
that's going to be every 18 months because it doesn't become cost effective for him, and the eggs become too big. The stores want their eggs standardized,
Right.
medium, large,
Right.
jumbo.
Right.
So what you're going to end up getting, you're going to get jumbo eggs and a little bit bigger. They wouldn't fit in a regular carton. As Muslims, I'll be like, alhamdulillah, I'm getting a bigger egg.
Right. Right. Right.
But yeah, so you got to look at different things like that, just all the way around. Now, with regards to septic,
Okay.
uh, composting toilets means you don't have to have a septic system in whatsoever. You're going to pay for it. You're going to have it on site. They have composting toilets that look exactly like conventional toilets.
Right.
Okay. And then they have the other ones that are more rustic. They have a pull out tray under the bottom. And basically, how it works is this: you're going to go to the bathroom. There's a chemical activator that you would put into the waste. Some of them have that, some of them don't. There's a heating and raking system
Hmm.
that basically turns the human waste into a fine powder. And this can be used as a fertilizer
Hmm.
for trees, anything above ground crops. because it takes heat and time to kill all the pathogens in human waste. But people might be like, oh, no. Trust me, you've probably been somewhere and you didn't even know it. Uh, and as a matter of fact, I had my neighbors standing next to my human manure pile talking to me. There's no flies, there's no smell, there's no nothing, and they didn't even know it.
Right. Right.
So there are different companies. Envirolet is one of them. I think it's Sanocor is another. And you can have those installed and save yourself on having the septic tank, the hole that has to be dug, and the quarterly or half year service of somebody coming out and pumping out.
Right. Right. Okay. So, um, I did notice that there's some municipal areas that allow those and some don't. So again,
Okay.
that's a consideration because we have options there. Um, uh, it's good to have that, you know. So now the downside to a septic system is what? Because I watched them put them in. I When I was a kid, I watched a couple, but that's not something we were doing or a lot of. Even when we were building down here in St. Mary's County, that's the place where it's out in the rural area. People had to put in septic systems, right? So what is the downside other than cost? Because there's a cost issue to each one of those, the pros and cons, because there are always pros and cons.
The downside is if you had any type of leak or breach in your tank, it will seep into the water table. And being that you're on the East Coast, your water table is going to be a lot higher than mine. So, for example, for us, our average well depth is 300 feet. Uh,
Hmm.
East Coast, a lot of places, you might just go 50 feet and, you're hitting water. Your water table is going to be even be before that.
Right,
So,
right.
um, so yeah, contamination is one of the definite cons.
Yes. Yeah, you don't want that.
Uh, Smell. With the composting system, there's going to be no smell. With the septic system, there is going to be a smell, um, especially when they go to clean out. You're just going to have that terrible smell. Uh, Cost is definitely going to be a lot cheaper on the composting side.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's all I can think of offhand.
Okay, yeah, that that definitely the composting sounds like the option. I hope that wherever we end up finding the land that we have that option because that takes a lot of cost out of and just the effort and the time involved, of putting in the septic, 'cause I managed to watch a few of those videos of them guys putting in, and it's pretty rough, It's a lot of work involved, and it has to be done a certain way. The leach field has to be tested because it's got to be able to what is it perk it's got to be able to soak down and possibly like you said on this side of the on the east coast could be seeping down into your water, your well water, the water for the well that you just dug, right, and
Yes.
contaminate that. And so yeah, definitely. That's good to hear. So I don't want to keep you all night. I wish we could. Uh, if Jawad or Zainab have any questions, please ask them now. I want to thank Sheryf. I thank you so much. You're getting a lot of good information. Any closing words of advice or anything like that? And I would like to have you back again sometime, and maybe after a few weeks, give you a break and maybe a time to think a little bit about what else you could tell us because you've shared a lot of information today, and we're thankful. We appreciate that, and we're hoping that this video will go into the group so that, inshallah, those who weren't able to watch the stream. I noticed we have a number of people on the stream watching. I was actually hoping we would get more people involved so we could get more going, but that didn't stop you from sharing very valuable information. I think we've gotten a lot of benefit out of this visit of yours.
Alhamdulillah. Basically, let's answer is organizational structure. And maybe I can discuss that in detail next time. That
Mm-hmm.
structure and planning is key. Not just planning for like the community or we're going to build a house, but how do we solve like conflict? You need conflict resolution
Yes.
because alhamdulillah, we're all Muslim. We say, oh, we're gonna abide by the Quran and Sunnah, but there are going to be issues that people are just you know not going to agree upon, and we got to figure out and establish how things are going to be done. And somebody says, okay, Quran and Sunnah. Well, I got a hadith, you got a hadith. This is Quran, this is hadith, and
Right,
like,
right,
what are
right,
we going with?
right, right,
Uh,
right.
a board, if you, I don't know if you have a board of directors for this project or a board of trustees, uh, you know, but I would have an outside body looking in at it, and at least one person on your board that's impartial, that doesn't benefit from the situation.
Right, right.
So like what we have here, we have a board of directors, and only two people here are on the board, but the other four are not members of the community.
Okay.
Um, but they are known, respected, and trusted, and they want the best for the community.
Right.
Um, Another thing that we have is if there are any, you know, domestic disputes, nobody here is solving those issues. Even though we have a student of knowledge, Khalid Green is here, alhamdulillah, but
Alhamdulillah.
he's not dealing with anything here because could create hardship,
That's right.
animosity,
Yeah.
just problems
Right.
amongst the brotherhood and the
Understood.
sisterhood here. So
Yes, that's right.
outside body takes care of that.
Excellent.
So just
No.
some things to consider, because basically you are establishing not just a community, you're basically establishing a government. You might
Hmm.
not think of it that way, but that's truly what it is. Like,
Right.
who's going to be responsible for this? How do we do this? Eid prayer, masjid, whatever it might be, you know?
Yeah, excellent. I think you're right. So the next time we have you on, I think yeah, those organizational, structural type of things and issues that come up and how do we resolve them and how we do that. I think that's a great idea because I honestly I didn't think of that. So I'm glad you brought it up. It gets us understanding. I think no one would deny that. Hey, that's something we need to have in place because that helps hold the community together without building, like you said, you want to look out for things that cause separation within the community. So we want to have people, like you said, from outside, even though you got Collard Green there, excellent student of knowledge, Dr. Collard Green there. Um, you you know there's a separation there because you don't want problems to cause for him and then you don't want divisions within the community because no, exactly. I love that and I thank you, Shitty. I thank you so much for joining us, man. I think we got a lot to ponder over, a lot of things that we need to definitely include in our planning that have come out of today, and the experience that you have, and I appreciate you offering it to us like this. I think it's invaluable, really, and I see that going forward. And I was telling someone earlier today, I said, we can have, I might even mention it during this stream here, but I said we have like a sort of family, a coalition of groups like yours down there, our project, others out there, so that we can kind of communicate together and talk about these things like what you brought up. I'm sure someone else from another experience, their whole project is a little different. They have some things to add, and I think we could all benefit from sharing those things. And also having, like you were saying, also we need to have that board of governors, board of directors, or what have you, people who are, you know, couple from it within the community, and maybe four, like the same structure, you know, three from in, six from out, whatever the case might be, but have that balance so we can, and let those people be people who are of good character and knowledge of Islam and so forth, and have a good um, opinion about what we're doing, and feel that they have something, that this is something they want to see successful. Yeah.
Now we'll let end on this. We were working on it because of COVID, we had all kinds of problems. You might be aware of there's a Homesteaders of America conference every year. Um, we're just going to consider you guys homesteaders because your
Right,
staff seems
right,
union.
right. No, alhamdulillah.
So we established actually was it 2 years ago, Muslim Homesteaders of America.
Okay.
But we weren't able to have our conference because of COVID.
Right.
Hopefully, this year we'll be able to. If not, we're going to do it online.
Okay.
And we have people in different areas. So Baraka Heritage Farm in Pennsylvania is one of the places. And then there's myself. There's a brother up in New York, a sister that's in Colorado, one in Arizona, and one in Georgia. So we'll be actually host the conference in these different locations, but
Okay. Yeah.
when we get everything situated, we'll let you know, inshallah.
Excellent. Naam. Barakallah fika, akhi. I appreciate you
People back a
coming,
lot.
and may Allah, make us all successful in this effort. I think is extremely important what we're doing. Um, we might not even see how important. We might understand that it's important, but in terms of long-term ability to build a foundation for Muslims in this part of the world to own land, to control their environment, to control in some way, hopefully build an economy that serves us first, and then spreads out to serve the greater community, certainly. But we need to have that organized. I appreciate what you've done for us and what you're doing down there, and the sacrifice that you and your family made in tents. That is that's powerful. May Allah reward you immensely, because and your family, subhanallah, the people who can get their family to go along, that says a lot about you. I want to tell you now.
But
Oh,
let me just say it out here to whatever sisters are listening. My wife and daughters were willing participants. I didn't force them to do anything. They were
right.
willing participants.
Now, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Tayyib, now, Jazakallah khair. I'm going to say that we're going to close out with a dua, inshallah. Would you do that for us, or do you want me to do it? I'd like for the guests. You want me to do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Tayyib. So I'm going to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us all successful, and that Allah gives us the best in this life. Now, khair fi dunya wa akhirah, that He gives us increase in knowledge and our risk, that He increases our risk and allows us to understand how to spend it and use that risk and best to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to serve Him. Because in serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the best service we can give, because Allah rewards His servants, those of us who give. So I'm going to say, Subhanakallah wa bihamdik wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We'll talk in the group too, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa
Salam.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam.